They make it go very fast because their idea now was, instead of armour protection, let's speed be our best defence. So if you can whip around the battlefield quickly, the enemy won't have enough chance to put their guns aimed at you to knock you out. And the Leopard 1 tanks were only, their armour was only proof or thickness of enough to stop 30mm rounds, which isn't much at all compared to some of the bigger tanks that were coming out at the time. Now, where the Germans were very clever is they managed to increase the armour protection, increase the weight of the tank over time, but they still managed to keep that mobility up. In the British Army, we decided after Centurion to go for a really thick, heavily armoured tank called the Chieftain. Massive firepower. We were fed up. The British philosophy was we never wanted to be knocked around again as we had been by big German tanks in World War II, so we were always going to have a bigger tank with an overmatched gun, a much more powerful gun than the enemy. But the mobility of the Chieftain was nowhere near as good as the Leopard you're seeing driving around now. What it did have, of course, was a superbly powerful 120mm gun. This tank driving around, this has got the 105mm gun we saw on the Centurion. It's a British gun that was converted and put onto and used by the Germans, and lots of other countries. The Americans used it on their M60s as well. Now this particular Leopard driving around, one other thing it took from the German Tiger is they actually put a snorkel on it, and you could actually drive this tank when it was prepared with a snorkel on through deep water, just as a Tiger was supposed to, because again their worry was that bridges would be blown up, how do we cross rivers, and they copied the idea from the Tiger. Although ironically the Tiger tank had a snorkel, it was never ever used in combat. It was one of these things that sounded a nice idea, never actually used. Now the Leopard driving around